Welcome to Prophetic Spotlight on the Marketplace Network. Of course, I'll be your host. I'm Dr. Ken. And with me is a very, very, very special guest. I've got producer, director Randy Turrow. Thank you so much for joining me today, sir.
A pleasure to be here.
Yes, amen. Now, let's jump right into it. I know you're in the business. Our folks want to hear about. I believe Hollywood's going to turn back to Hollywood like it was in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I'm not saying how it was run, but the movies they produced, they were all with morals and conservative views. So, sir, how did you get started in the business?
Yeah, so I was in law school, and
Ooh, okay.
yeah, so I was
That's exciting.
yeah. So one of the people in law school, her husband was running for a judgeship, and he and needed someone to help run his campaign. And I had run a congressional campaign, and I'm only like 18 or 19 years old at the time. In high
Wow,
school,
that's impressive.
I ran a congressional campaign, and I was successful at it. And so they said, "Could you help me out?" And so that's how we got started. And then, well, that doesn't tell you how I got started in movies. So I got in this campaign. They said, "Give me a list of your clients that you've dealt with." And he had one drunk driver who happened to be in the movie business. And I said, "Could we have like a coffee here, and introduce all your friends to the client, to the attorney who wants to run for judge?" He said, "I'll do it, but I'm really busy right now." I said, "What are you doing?" "Well, we have to have all these people for a scene tomorrow." "What are you looking for?" "Well, we need, people to fill a bar." I go, "I go to college. I can fill up a bar. How much are you paying them?" And he gave me a figure. It was like $50 a day at that time or something. So
Cool, that's good.
they said, "If I fill up the bar, can you put on this party?" He said, "Sure." And so a few months later, it was summertime, and he was doing another movie. He said, "I really liked how you helped us out with that. Would you like to be a PA on our movie set?" And I showed up, and I was doing, everything I was supposed to do. Excuse me. And I was doing everything I needed to do. And they fired the production manager that day and said, "I've been a campaign manager. What's so hard about being a production manager?" So I've been stumbling ever since, and that was,
That's a tremendous story, Randy.
yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah.
so how long have you been doing
Well, I've been doing it since probably before you were born, but no,
it?
I've been in it since 73, 1973.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Long
been a
time,
long
sir.
time. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
got
you look
involved.
too young to be that.
Yeah,
Been
it
doing
keeps
it
you
that long.
young. It keeps you young. The business keeps you very young. I was working at an agency, and they were CMA, they became ICM, and then CAA. And at the time, and that was like a real eye-opening experience too, because they'd send me to the movie sets. And at one time, one movie set I went to was Towering Inferno. And what made
Ooh.
that unique was you had two of the top stars at the time, plus all the iconic stars of Hollywood in it. The two top stars were Steve McQueen and
Paul
Paul
Newman?
Newman, right? And you'd see them arguing. Paul Newman had more finesse than Steve McQueen, but whatever Steve McQueen would ask for, Paul Newman would want, or Paul Newman would want something. And the argument at the time, which was interesting, was who would have higher billing, who would be who gets top billing. And they finally decided on like the person on the left side of the screen would be lower, and the person on the right side would be higher. So you'd read this one first, but this would be higher up. And that's how they, finally. But I was going back and forth with that contract. But even more significant than meeting them at that time, this really iconic actor was there, and I made friends with him. And I'd ask him, "How's Hollywood? How did you invent stars and everything?" His name was Fred Astaire. And that
Ooh.
was and that was a big introduction for me to how really Hollywood worked. And at that time, I'd meet stars every week, the biggest and brightest stars, picking up famous stars at the airport to, going to their houses to drop off scripts. So it was a very fascinating time for me. And then getting into making these movies. And eventually I became chair of the mentor committee at the Directors Guild. I worked with maybe 500 production managers and 2,000 ADs. And so I
Oh,
learned a lot of efficiency, how to do production. And then by being on that, they'd invite us to be involved in negotiations. I learned a lot about how negotiations work. They'd invite in the smartest people on Wall Street, the biggest people there, and the expensive attorneys and the backroom bean counters. And they even had the FBI come in one time to explain how money disappears, or how, what from the equity holder. And from that experience, I was able to blend the two together. And I even had people that were invited to be guest lecturers, like say at UCLA Law School. And then they'd say, you should meet this guy. He knows all the contracts and everything. And I'd get invited because the key was drilling down to an essence. And by knowing the details, you can know how to put everything else together. You can learn the algorithms. It's not unlike, we were talking, because it's a spiritual show here, is that, I remember reading, like, in the first 5 books, they would talk about like taking these consensus. And I go, why do they always keep bringing up the consensus? Why do you have to count each person individually? Because
that's
each
good.
person each person counts for God. Each person would have to
Amen.
put a half a shekel in with the silver,
Uh-huh.
and things like that, because we all matter. We're all put here for a reason, to make the world the way it's supposed to become. And we have to find that value in ourselves. And it's not different than doing a movie, where you want to find what the story is you want to tell with the movie. What's that essence? And the key is, you're not there to preach anything in the movie. The key is to teach what the initial, whether it's the Ten Commandments or the initial books would teach you, that the Christians duplicated, which
Mhm.
was, the moral truths. Here are the
Mhm.
moral truths. And what was so valuable about the Christians, they'd take what the Jews had in their books, they'd take them, and then they'd take them out to the world. And that was, and by having the whole world have moral truths, or more people in the world, we elevate humanity. We make it what God really wants. He wants that mending of the separation between heaven and earth. He wants us
Good word.
to, yeah. So that's what these movies do. So on Saturday night, you can go to a movie, be entertained, and then Sunday you go say, I got moved in that movie. I gotta go learn what that's all about. Sunday morning, you go to church.
That's good. That's really good. I want
So
to ask you,
please,
I need an expert to ask, who
yeah.
is the boss? Is it the movie studios? And is it the executive directors that spend the money? Is it the producers? Is it the directors? Is it the star? Who runs the show?
Yeah, so I can talk to you from like the production manager point of view, where, when you have to engage somebody on a production, you have a hierarchy of decisions you have to make. And so the first one is the money. So the money may be the studio, may be the financier, it may be the bond company, but you have to say, will the studio accept this? Will the money accept this engagement? And then
I
you
see.
look at the director and the director's vision. Does this fit with the director's vision, what they're looking for? Like, maybe a costume designer comes and says, look at this beautiful dress I got. I said, I know, but it's white, and the director wanted black. Can you change it? So I can say yes. It's funny when you go to hire people, before you hire them, they're sophisticated adults and well refined and everything. Once you hire them, they become like children. I can
Yeah.
understand God, why he has so many issues with us.
That's
Because we
good.
have,
That's really good.
because we have to work on that animal in us, that animal reaction, elevate it to where we're thinking with our brains, and of course, get it to where we're transcendental, ultimately, where he wants us to go. Same thing in business, but the studios ultimately, they have a legacy, but they have a lot of issues that they're dealing with now, and the issues are, they're trying to be deterministic with the AI, thinking that the computers can solve all our issues. But the fact is people want to see novelty. If you go back to, 2000 years ago or 3000 years ago, people would be sitting around talking and someone would say, I used a stick today this way. And then they'd say, let's turn it into a spear. It would be more than 3000 years ago when they were doing that. But the
Yes.
only difference between the people talking then and like we're on a Zoom call today, and today, what's the difference? All the computers and the technology you and I are interacting with today existed at that time, but in mineral form. And like God says, at the most sublime level of spirituality or the most subatomic level of science, they say the same thing, is that nothing's created or destroyed, it just changes form. It's interesting
Mhm.
how people try to bifurcate the two, but they're really one. You just have to understand the nomenclature,
Wow,
and
that's
they work
good.
the
Wow,
same.
wow, wow. I'm
Yeah.
really learning a lot. Now, is it true that the star, I'm going to say this for not only Christian movies, but for, the, for everybody, I should say. Does the star make that much of a difference? If his name's attached, they get more money, or it has a better chance of viewing better, or more people will go, or how does that work? Or is it the story is better?
Yeah, so it's a combination. The first thing, if you're going to make a movie, you want to sell it and have distribution. So distributors need what's called a shiny object. And the shiny object is a couple of things. One is the genre, the story, but the thing that, you won't be able to sell it usually to get the bigger money, what you need in order to make the more production value are the stars. So we're still in a star-driven society, and the stars are learning today, that at one time it was just a star system. As I mentioned to you, when I talked to someone like Fred Astaire, and he
Sure.
talked to me about how they had like a behavioral scientist at MGM, this whole army that would go out and they'd say, do you like this actor with this actor, this actress, or with this one? And they'd look and try to figure out where the synergy was between different. Do you like this actor with hair to here, or this short? Or do you like this color lipstick for the actress or that?
Uh-huh.
They do
Uh-huh.
all that. But then they'd shoot them. And sometimes for 6 months, every few days, they'd show up and they'd reshoot and try different things till they created a brand with them. And the
Okay.
brand was to sell the star as a star. They didn't have the TV then and all that where they'd cross market as much as they do today, where once you're a star, apparently whatever you touch, is star quality too. It's a shiny object
Mhm.
again, right? You're a star, so you eat a candy bar, so that candy bar must be healthy for you. Whatever.
Yeah.
They use the stars to promote it, and all that. But now the stars are a big commodity. There's so much money to make with your brand. So not only can they make more money now, tap in like a George Clooney selling a tequila and selling it for $1 billion, making 250 million
I know.
or
Mm.
something. It's
That's
unbelievable. But
wow.
that's what stars mean today. We live in that celebrity world, and it's part of it is because people, don't understand their relationship with God. The more you understand your relationship with God, you're not impressed with all that.
Yeah,
So
that's a great word. Amen, sir. Now,
yeah.
all that said, script. How is important is the script? Is it blowing everything up nowadays, or telling the Bible the way it is if you're in a Christian genre, or is the script, if they have enough stars, is that okay, or is the script still the most important thing?
Yeah, so people have an appetite, and the big secret in Hollywood is genre. Like, if you're a real estate agent, it's location, location, location. It's kind of a mantra, right? In Hollywood, it's genre, genre, genre. And a
Okay.
genre could be a romance, unique meet and greet. That's like, for example, it's an appetite people have. A lot of women have an appetite for romance stories because they get it when they're a teenager, and then like in young teenager, then in high school romance, and in college they finally meet somebody, they get married. Once you're married having kids, the romance kind of goes out. So where do they get it? They get Hallmark. They go to Hallmark as often as they want. They get that rush, that romantic rush. Well, there's other people that love the horror rush, because they have so much intensity at work. They get that kind of a rush or action rush, like it plays with them. So there's a zeitgeist for that kind of thing. So the genre is certain kinds of beats that you have to hit. Romance is unique meet and greet, and then they get closer together, and the girl has her girlfriend that tells her, why are you with the guy? The guy has his guy friends, why are you with the guy? And then, they kind of fall apart, but then they come back together, and then something happens, and they go, oh my God, we're gonna fall apart again. Then at the last minute, they either kiss or they have a wedding.
Okay,
Every
that's
Hallmark is
good.
exactly the same, right? So, but
Hmm.
but that's like when you go to McDonald's or something that you're used to, you want that taste. Coca-Cola has a taste, and you can't drink Pepsi if you like Coca-Cola. You know the difference. I don't
Hmm.
drink either, so I don't know either one what they don't matter to me. But I mean, but some people who love that, they want to go see it. So the story is very critical, so getting to your point, that's the story. If you don't tell the story well, what happens is it takes people out of watching the movie. And then if they're taken out too many times, and it could be not just the story, it could be the actors don't have synergy together. It could be the lighting is bad or you can't hear very well. It could be, it's not framed, it's evenly. And then people get confused and it takes them out of the movie. You take people out of the movie 4 times usually, they won't have what's called word of mouth, WOM. If you don't have word of mouth, the film won't succeed. So the story has to work because someone's not going to tell someone to go watch something that they didn't enjoy, that they didn't like. And storytelling goes way back. The reason faith-based is so important because that's all our DNA, for you know, over 2,000 years. We have that in our DNA, the moral
That's
truth.
good. Hmm.
And if
Now,
we,
speaking of faith-based, I'm glad you brought that up. I was
yeah,
going to say, where does that rank? Is it? Uh, I've heard it's horror first, then faith-based, or then action. I mean, is there a ranking of which one seems to hit the general public? Or
well, look at last summer. They had Barbie opposites like Barbie and Oppenheimer,
good
right?
word. Hmm.
So what ranks is what's done well, what gets the right marketing, who has the right actors, the music, everything ranks really well if it's done well. People want to be engaged in entertainment. They want to be entertained, and you'll get people out to see it. But for family and everything, obviously, like a faith-based, if you do things with too much violence in it or foul language or sexual, whatever, all this stuff, parents don't want to watch with their children or grandchildren and their grandparents. They can't watch it together, because the kids are embarrassed that their parents are watching what they're seeing. They go, oh my God, this is,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and the parents don't want their children watching that, So the reason, like for the streamers, because a lot of streaming's done at home, obviously, is if you can get things that are faith-based, and family oriented, then people can watch it together. Whole families can watch it together. It brings together the nuclear family, and which is what happens when we go to church. It brings us together, and so movies can work that way if we have the right stories. And the faith-based stories work, as I mentioned to you, because the moral truths that goes back. We all have that ingrained in us, and we see that it's
Mhm.
reaffirming something we know inside, saying, "Oh, I can operate on that. I want to be like that," rather than being torn away or stimulated with something that is something that is addictive, but it's not really beneficial for us.
Amen. And one last question, and by the way, I'm so impressed with your answers and how forthright you are with this. And boy, you've really opened my eyes. I'm sure our audience eyes as well. But I just have to ask, the awards, does that really mean anything, or is it a matter of opinion, or who's popular, or is it really who's the best actor or whatever?
Well, everyone, not only you and me, but everyone watching this can answer it from themselves. Do you really care anymore? It used
Right.
to be,
You're
yeah,
right. You're right.
like the BAFTA awards were over the weekend, but people want to take care of their families. They want to care about making them, getting right with God, making themselves better, taking care of their families, taking care of their communities. And the stars have dissipated, the star shows and everything, the Academy Awards and all that, because they've lost what it was all about, the initial glamour or, prestige of being something, holding up this esteem. I mean, today, I don't know. I just don't know anybody getting excited. I used to be, everybody be calling me, oh, Randy, get me into this awards show, get me into that, and I used to go to them, so I liked them. But now what they stand for, what people say, I guess I've heard it too many times, the same thing over and over. It's just, who cares about that? What I care about is someone trying to make a difference, someone doing a nice benefit for people in their community. That's what gets me excited about life.
And last question I have to ask, can movies really make a difference in our world? In other words, have a generation understand what they're going through, what's happened in the past, maybe past problems. Is that the biggest form, movies, to help us learn what we need to do or not to do?
Well, the movie maker, the director, the producer, the people making the movie, they make it when they, the ones that know what they're doing, only like 2% of Hollywood knows really how to make a movie and to be original, And so most of it's very deterministic. They say, oh, look, this worked last year. Let's just copy it. Let's be a cookie cutter. Let's be a parrot. They're not
I hear
original,
you.
so it's very horizontal. But when you get something that's vertical and it's hitting to the core, it can, they're making every effort to efface their self from the motion picture in order to let a movie's assets shine to their full potential. There is that there is that glimpse where people can say, that moved me, let me go to church tomorrow, or let me go do something better to do that. And it happens every so often. But like I
Mhm.
say, it's just people would rather say, well, let's just, we have to show some kind of nudity because that's going to get people's attention, or we have to shoot somebody, but most people, like, I don't like violence. I don't like, you know, explicit stuff and things like that. It takes me right out of the movie. I've seen enough car chases. I don't care about them anymore, right? So I mean, how many
Very
car
good.
chases can you see? So that's what it is. But if the people make the right kind of thing, just like how many books do books change the world? And how
Amen.
many books other than the Bible? Like I've been talking to some people this week about doing Pilgrim's Progress again, which is John Bunyan's script and I mean book that is probably next to the Bible the most read Christian book of all time, and stuff. So,
Good for you.
but a lot of people would like to see that. It's interesting for them. So so
Amen.
it's that
Good
kind of
for
thing.
you.
Yeah.
And one more thing. I know I
Yeah.
said it was the last
Keep going.
question three
Keep
times ago.
you can do it 5 times. It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
But I just wonder, can, because we see a lot of Christian filmmakers uh, raising their own money. Can people make a difference, Randy, as far as donating the money, or does the studio? Do you need a studio, or do you need a what they call nowadays to get you into the theaters? What is it called? A supply or a whatever? What you use the word
Distributor.
earlier? Yes,
Distributor. Yeah. So the thing is that if there's so many, it's so segregated, the industry with different things. Like someone writes a script and they go and say, look, I wrote a script. They're like a Charles Dickens character. Please, sir, give me the money for my script. And then
huh,
then there's other people that say, I know how to market a project, but they don't know how to talk to each other. It's too,
I
so
see.
you have to get things that are integrated all the way through. So, but you can definitely make money in the business. You can mitigate risk if you just understand the algorithms. I do an algorithm for California rebate where they say, oh, it's just a lottery, but it's not technically, it's just an algorithm. You just have to understand the jobs ratio and you'll get in every time. People don't read that. They don't know how to do it because they just want to make the movie. And they said, let the accountant do that. I don't care about the numbers because they don't care about taking care of the investor, protecting the investor, right? So if you do that correctly and you do things efficiently like that. You can, the people who come up with the money can make their money back. For example, I'm leaving for Oklahoma tomorrow, and they're faith-based, as strong as you can get. We have a whole church that they brought their members together and say, if we give you a certain amount of money, what can you do with that? And we discussed how to turn that into a business model. And the model basically is we do the development, and we do the soft prep, and we take that, which is maybe anywhere from 2.5 to 10% of the budget, and we get that into a place where, we can make it bondable. The
Mm,
project, we have the director go to locations with department heads. We get everything so it's ready to go. And then we go and lock in our actors. It's called pay or play contracts. And the pay or plays are the ones that are shiny objects, the actors. And you put a certain amount down. You don't have to give them their full salary. Now, with the actors locked in a bondable budget, we can go to all the streamers, all the studios, and they will give us money above what, because they're not obligated to take their money out, and we, for the year to year and a half till we deliver it to them. So they're willing to pay us extra amount of money. So if it's a $10 million film, I'm just using that for mapping purposes.
okay.
They'll say, well, it would cost us 20 million to do this, or 30 million. Let's offer them 12 million or 15 million, see if they'll take that, and then you give them the rights to that. And you take that paper, which is, a license to print money, you go to the bank, and the bank sees you have that, plus you have the tax rebates, and there's also financial structures, deferred capital gains and things like that you can work with. And they said, what am I going to do with all this money? Give it to the government. They can put it into a movie now with the different programs, the tax
Amen.
strategies, like that. So now we're helping them make money without having to lose money. And then the bank at that juncture gives us back a certain amount of money to go make it. And the 2.5% is paid back plus like, say, 20%. So they've made their profit, with mitigated risk. It's I'm trying to give you like an overview, not to give you a lot of,
Yes, I understand.
so you get that.
Wow.
So there
So
are
it's not
ways
that
that,
hard. It's not as risky as it used to be.
well, it is for most people. It's just like, because like, again, over 99% or whatever don't know what they're doing. But because I
Right.
was on that negotiating committee, I saw how that works. I saw how the money moves, and how to work that, and how to mitigate that risk, and what's real, what's not. And then surrounding yourself with people with integrity, that understand we got to pay back the investor first. How do we make sure they get paid?
Mhm. Wow. It's been so fascinating because of time. Do you want to pray us out or you want me to?
I'd like to hear you pray us out.
Okay. I believe today is the 19th. It means faith and hearing in Hebrew. So look it up for yourself. I believe it's not a coincidence that you and I are doing this today. Today is the second month, it means double witness. I believe the world is witnessing to what you just said. And we've learned a lot of insider ideas of Hollywood, of how really, if we do it right, things can really be handled properly. People can get their money back and make a little money. People can get their message out. People can make a living. A lot of things can go as sometimes Hollywood has a bad rap, especially with the movies they're doing. I think when we bring it back to more of a Hollywood situation, I think, but I really believe with all my heart, you're going to get that project. And I thought this as I was praying today, you're going to get that project you've always wanted. I bet in the next 5 years it's going to happen. I'm declaring that. And 24 means priesthood. It means you're stepping into your real anointing of what you have. The special that you have is going to increase 3 times. I'm telling you, man of God, you're going to release, produce, and do movies like you've never done before at a higher level. Get ready. Your season is now. That's Psalms 102:13. And you have favor inside of the world, which is Exodus 12:36. So get ready. This is your time. This is your season. All you've done is built it up to this point for God. You're going to do great things for God, and people will even have. I believe schools will have your manual of how you did this because what God has given to you. It's called Witty Invention, Godly Ideas. It's in Proverbs 8:12. So get ready, man of God. It's your time. It's your season. We'd like to bless you. Thank you for your time. Thank all the wonderful listeners that are listening to us. And let's you and I get together later on when you get back, maybe you can text us. I'd like to take you to lunch, pick your brain a little farther if you don't mind.
Yeah, bless you and amen. Thank you very
Amen.
much.
Well, until next time, I'm Dr. Ken, of
Yeah.
course, the great Randy, producer, director. We'll see you next time on Prophetic Spotlight. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.